TechNet Saturday at 7 p.m. W5FC. W5FC.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Oh, it is 9 o'clock, and it is time for Skynet. Does anybody need to use the repeater before we begin? This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, very enthusiastically, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me this evening, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a peal tone of 110 decibel. Niner check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5SC-R station ID or the famous Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Just go to the club website, which is w5fc.org right now, for a complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is about 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts with general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, what's up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, let's see, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and the 73 round. As mentioned, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's start with low power and short time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come with your call sign, your name, phonetically by the way, your name, your location, and whether you're low power, short time. Low power, short time only, please come now.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas. Low power.
All right, well, I got just one, W5GUS, Gus, in far northeast Dallas. He's low power. I know he'll be here for the duration. Anyone else, low power, short time, please come now.
This is
Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WD4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
All right, I already doubled our check-ins. We've got WB4MFI, that's Ted in Dallas, low power. All right, with those two, I know they're here for the duration. I'll go ahead and take general check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, phonetically your name and where you're transmitting from. General check-ins.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey
Weatherford. Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob and Dallas.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Ooh, slow check-ins. We'll start. We got let me try again. KG5BZW, J near Weatherford. KG5UFR, that's Jacob in Dallas. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda and DeSoto. Additional check-ins, please come out.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch, and I'm hoping that Gus is listening and hopefully got my email. KF5ZWL.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
W5BLT, Bill Garland.
All right, let's go ahead and get those. I've got KF5ZBL, that's Bill over in Farmers Branch. I've got KF5JHA, Chaz in Mesquite. Yes, it's a real dog. KG5PPL, that's Patrick in Dallas. KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James Carrollton. KB9SOK, Sean, Fort Worth. WB5BLT, that's Bill in Garland. Additional check-ins, please come out.
This is Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson.
November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving.
All right, picked up two more. I got AA5AH, that's Robert in Richardson. N5BB, Bill in Irving. All right, I'm going to go over to Echolink. I'll come back to regular check-ins in a moment. If you are on Echolink and you would like to join us, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. I'll give you extra time. Okay, nobody there. Let me go ahead and ask one more time. Anyone else who would like to join us, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Juliet Delta Whiskey.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly in Quanah, Texas.
we picked up 2. I've got K5JDW John. He didn't say where. I'm going to assume in Norman, Oklahoma. And then I've got K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quanah, Texas. I have you listed as well. Thank you both for checking in. Anyone else like to check in? And then we'll get started.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman on Echolink.
And we picked up one of our regulars over on Echolink. I've got KF5 PDS, Miss Billy over in Sherman. All right, do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be of ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come with your call.
KG5 APL.
All right, I've got let's see here, KG5, is it APL or PPL? I'm not sure. Go ahead with your announcement.
Yeah, it's APL, Alpha Papa Lima. So hi everyone, this is KG5 APL. I just want to share, I guess, an interesting thing coming up. I think we know, well, last I heard there's going to be a Falcon Heavy launch, hopefully lifting off next week. And while every rocket launch is exciting, this one's, I guess, extra exciting. But I wanted to share one YouTube channel that I use to watch these sort of events, and it's called NASA Space Flight. I think there's a lot of ways out there to be watching different flights or different rocket launches, but NASA Space Flight is actually probably one of the more better ones, in my opinion. And I think that's because they give like a more higher level. They're definitely speaking to a higher level crowd, whereas a lot of the like the SpaceX launches or the NASA actually feeds, I feel like they're catering toward like a middle school or high schooler crowd. The NASA spaceflight live stream definitely caters toward people who, I guess, know a little bit more about what's going on. So yeah, just wanted to share that. Again, they're not NASA affiliated. That's just the name of it, NASA Spaceflight, all one word on YouTube. All right, enjoy the rocket launches, y'all. It's KG5 APL.
All right, very good, and thanks. Yeah, I've seen it. It says NASA Spaceflight. I don't think it's actually NASA, but it is done by space enthusiasts such as ourselves and folks that provide all of the streams. Sometimes they get some exclusive streams too, if I remember, but they're there and they narrate and all of that, which is pretty cool. Yeah, thanks for the information. Appreciate it very much. And I've got you checked in position number 18. Do we have any other announcements that anyone would like to bring to the net this evening? All right, very good. Let's see here. I've got the usual announcements here. Don't forget AMSAT.net. The Radio Amateur Satellite Group has actually 3 nets available into Dallas residents Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You can get the Houston net via Echolink. All you have to do is look for it under its own group called AMSAT. There's also a live audio link available on their website, which is amsatnet.com. And again, it originates in Houston, Texas. When you're down there, you can check in, of course. The Dallas AMSAT Net East in Dallas-Fort Worth rates here is every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on the local repeater, this repeater, in fact. Tom, who you'll hear here on this net or even later on this evening, and 5HYP is the net control, and all are welcome to check in. This coming Tuesday will be the DARC Club Net night, and so we will not have a net that evening. There's also Dallas Hamsat Net West, the original net, on Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, which is 147.140 megahertz with a field tone of 110.9 with a positive offset. So you're welcome to check in at any time on any of those nets. The Hamsat net is open to all amateurs. Now, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club has a bunch of nets. We have on Monday evenings is a different net every Monday evening at 7 o'clock. We have Ham Fixin's net having everything to do with cooking. Yes, cooking. We know that hams not only like to eat, they like to cook. Come to that net, 7 o'clock. Bring your recipes, tips, and cooking tips, and anything else you might think would be interesting. On the second week, we have MCOM 101. That one is a non-denominational emergency communications network. It gets your feet wet, emergency communications, learn all about it. Many of the regular people who served agencies here in the Dallas area do check in on that net at 7 o'clock. You don't have to be a member of any organization to do so, just a licensed ham. On the third week, we have Ham Fixin's net, a second helping. In fact, same thing as the first week, just more recipes and more information on food. Fourth week is GeekNet, and NT5TM, that's Tony, runs that net, and we open it up to any and everything. Amateur radio computers, why did the smoke leave my computer? You'll know. And we have every few months, a surprise net on the fifth week. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise net. And then we also have, let's see, on Tuesday, well, we did Tuesdays. On Fridays, we have the Search City simulation. Right now, it's running at 8 o'clock. I don't know if they're going back to an earlier time or not, but you might want to tune in a little early. But currently, their summer hours are starting at 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. We have Melissa, KI5GRH, net control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, CERT City. All are welcome. And then, of course, on Saturdays, we have the Night at Nets, starting with with TechNet from 7 to 8, which concluded here about an hour ago. Skynet, which is going on right now. And then we also have, let's see, first and third Sundays, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Meeting on the Air, or MODA. That one, anybody can check in. Do so. Find out about this club, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Then finally, daily, Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net. That's at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Everyone is welcome to that net if you'd like to learn about passing formalized traffic, which is what the ARRL was originally and continues to be about. Listen to that net. If you're new to amateur radio, there's an excellent net to check in on as well. People get to know you, as well as you get to go through the formal net and learn how to do it. You can't make a mistake. It's a training net. Now, tonight's afterglow info I've got, I mentioned that at 11, did I mention the 11:30 net? I guess I did not. 10:30, the afterglow movie net. Every Saturday, we are assigned a movie, we watch the movie, and then we review it. We talk about the plot, we talk about the characterization, special effects, music, and the not-so-special things about the film. What made it memorable, what made it forgettable. So here it is, my highly accurate afterglow info. Everybody listen up, here it is. Dr. Jeremiah Morley was a very smart rocket scientist, but not as smart as all the others. While sitting around eating lunch one day, he was challenged by one of the smarter rocket scientists. He was all German and smartly dressed. The larger one spoke, and we insert heavy German accent here. So Morley, you wish to build a giant rocket, eh? That nose cone looks like a giant boring bit, and those workers look like 2-bit actors from Central Casting. Explain how you plan to launch that thing. It even has wheels. There are no roads in space. The rest of the scientists started laughing. One grabbed Morley's underwear band and pulled it up forcibly. Another grabbed his radiation Geiger counter and played catch with it, tossing it to the other smarter scientists. Morley then had an idea. What if I send this new rocket to inner space rather than outer space? He looked at the table of dumber, less able citizen workers mindlessly eating their lunch. One was still trying to figure out how to unwrap his bologna sandwich. Morley reasoned it out. I can take these oafs on a mission with me, pay them lunch money, and then dump them somewhere in the inner Earth. I can make millions. I'll show those German scientists how smart I really am. Join us for a trip back to 1951 and the movie Unknown World from, you guessed it, 1951. The Afterglow Movie Net tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, which is W5FC or Whiskey5FriedChicken.org. All right, let's go to the next section, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, and I will call on Chaz, KF5JHA. You're the usual suspect on that. You want to tell us about TAS? Please come out.
Why, thank you, Tom. I'm not sure what I'm suspicious of, but okay. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, October the 22nd at 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be held on Zoom. The scheduled speaker is Brother Guy. I'm going to mess up his name, but I'm going to try it anyway. Constellation. He's actually a Jesuit priest, but he's an American research astronomer, physicist, director of the Vatican Observatory, and the president of the Vatican Observatory Foundation. Brother Guy is one of the authors of the popular book, Turn Left at Orion. Brother Guy's topic is going to be discarded worlds, astronomical ideas that were almost correct. Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Now, the Saturday night public observing sessions have been placed on hold again because of COVID. One of the reasons that Skynet was picked to be on a Saturday night was so that there was an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society public observing sessions that are also held on Saturday nights. But since it's not happening, we won't get any reports from them tonight. If you want to get more information, go to texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JJ, back to KE5ICX. Mr. Tom, I think he's the grandfather of Skynet.
Oh, thank you, Chaz. If I'm the grandfather, what's that make you? But I'm old enough to be a grandfather now. Getting old is like very progressive, I guess. And this is KE5ICX. Let's see here. We have next National Space Society events and activities. Bill, N5BB. Did he check in? I'm looking here. Yeah, he did. Bill, what do you have for us on National Space Society this evening?
Oh, I'm here. This is N5BB. Tom, you or I theoretically could be great-grandfathers if you work the math out. But let's not go there. The National Space Society is an organization mostly in the U.S., but with some membership outside the U.S., of space enthusiasts, and it popularizes and advocates for human uses of space. This could be manned or it could be non-manned, but most things National Space Society is involved with is human uses of space, humans going into space. There is a local chapter, the National Space Society of North Texas. I am the membership director of that chapter. Our normal meetings are the second Sunday afternoon of every month. And if we didn't have a pandemic, we would be meeting at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving on Highway 183 at Beltline. But because of the pandemic, we're back to virtual meetings. Our next meeting will be a week from tomorrow, Sunday, October the 10th. I believe it will be virtual. I'm trying to get some verification of that right now. Unfortunately, I don't yet know what the meeting topic will be. Because of the remaining kick up in the pandemic recently, last couple of months, we are not currently doing very many in-person activities. The only in-person activity that the local chapter is doing in the near term is the event at the Irving South Library for World Space Week. This is next Saturday, October the 9th. Again, this is a World Space Week event, so some of you may be interested. It'll be happening at the Irving South Library, which is across Irving Boulevard from City Hall. The address is 601 Schultze Ave Drive. That's 601 SCHULZE Drive, Irving 75060. This is the Irving South Library. It's essentially the big central campus. And the World Space Week event will be next Saturday, October the 9th, a week from tonight, today, at noon to 4 p.m. I will be there, as well as some other National Space Society members, and there will be a presentation at 2 p.m. by one of our members about a space-related topic. So, an actual in-person event, a week from a day in Irving, at a library. Be there or be square. I'm showing my age there. If you have a question about that event or any other National Space Society questions, and especially if you want to become a member of our local chapter or the National Space Society in general, please contact me. You can send me an email to Bill Byram, N5BB, at space@byram.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net, or N5BB at ARRL.net. That's all I've got tonight, Tom. Thank you, N5BB.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Does anybody need any fills? Please come with your call. Okie dokie. Well, it's time for the topic of the evening. As net control, I get to pick it, and I mentioned that I was going to continue our discussion about astroarchaeology. And this comes from the fact that I bought a book, gosh, about 4 or 5 years ago. I finally brought it out, and it's called Skywatching in Ancient Mexico. And it involves talking about, it was written by Anthony Aveni, and he wrote this book. He's kind of like the Carl Sagan of astroarchaeology. He knows everything about it. He just recently retired from his university. He's happily retired. So I've put something here together that you may find interesting. Some of it's from him, some of it's from the websites, but it's rather interesting, talking about how Mesoamericans were able to actually decipher the skies. So here we go. Last time I spoke to you about astroarchaeology, the mingling of science, culture, and history, the study of ancient societies that decipher the sky. We just discussed how major celestial objects like Pleiades, the sun, and moon help define both seasons and months, but also commingled with astrology to predict future natural catastrophes, the fall of kings, societal altercations, and even the end or beginning of Earth. Much of what I cited came from the respected and renowned work of Anthony Aveni in his popular Skywatchers of Ancient Mexico, where he ascribes to the best of his ability his and others' works involved in deciphering the astronomical significance of famous Mayan sites scattered throughout the Yucatan Peninsula. tonight I want to discuss a few more areas of interest of many and should be to the rest of us. So why the fascination? Why we all love astronomy as much of what we observe is through the naked eye or perhaps an inexpensive telescope. The Mayans, of course, had no such instrument, but they had time on their side, and they were able to exactly map the evening and daytime sky and had to do so using observation. But the Mayan extended the movement of the heavens into practical issues, from determining the beginning of the harvest season to timed eclipses to measuring with astonishing accuracy the passing of years, season, and millennia. Think of the power of observation when religious shamans could predict lunar and solar eclipses accurate within a day or two. The mesmerizing innate power gifted them to kings and commoners alike. So let's talk about some of the more important elements. We'll talk about the calendar. Of all the world's ancient calendar systems, the Mayans and other Mesoamerican systems are the most complex, intricate, and accurate. Calculations of congruence of the 260-day and the 365-day, or I think it's called Mayan cycles, is almost exactly equal to the actual solar year in the tropics, with only a 19-minute margin of error. Mayan astronomer priest, I'll get it right, looks to the heavens for guidance. They used observatories, shadow casting devices, and observations of the horizon to trace the complex motion of the sun, the stars, and planets in order to observe, calculate, and record this information in their chronicles or codices. From their observations, the Mayans developed calendars to keep track of celestial movements and the passage of time. The Mayans also kept detailed records of the moon, although these do not seem to constitute a formal lunar calendar. With the aid of a forked stick, astronomer priests used only the naked eye to take observations that allowed them to calculate the path of Venus and other celestial bodies. From the records of their observations, they could calculate with precision events such as solar eclipses. In Mayan cities, ceremonial buildings are precisely aligned with compass directions. At the spring and fall equinoxes, for example, the sun might be made to cast its rays through small openings in a Mayan observatory, lighting up the observatory's inner walls. Other alignments might relate to the exteriors of temples and palaces. The most famous example of this kind of alignment can be observed in Chichen Itza, the principal Mayan city of the Yucatan Peninsula. And if you're watching the video or you look at the link there, you'll see what it looks like. People still gather there each year, as they have for centuries, to observe the sun illuminate the stairs of a pyramid dedicated to Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god. At the vernal and autumnal equinoxes, the sun gradually illuminates the pyramid stairs and the serpent head at its base, creating the images of a snake slithering down the sacred mountain to earth. Why did the Mayan go to such lengths to align their ceremonial plazas and temples with the sun and stars? In part, it was to venerate the gods. Picau's tomb in the Temple of the Inscriptions at Palenque, for example, is aligned with the sun. At winter solstice, the sun sets behind the high ridge behind the temple, in line with the center of the temple roof. As the sun crosses the sky, it enters a doorway in the temple, hits the back wall, and as it heads for the horizon beyond the temple, appears to descend the temple stairway into Picau's tomb. Picau's death and entry into the underworld are thus equated with the sun's death and entry into the underworld. Built on the lower foothills of the Sierra Madre, the Temple of the Inscriptions was named for a series of hieroglyphics found on the interior walls of the tomb or temple topping the pyramid. The tomb chamber, which lies at ground level, is accessible only from a stairway beginning in the floor of the temple. Close by, the palace, which is this tower, and I'm showing a picture of that, is the central area of Palenque. An unusual feature is this 4-story square tower added around AD 721 by the son of Lord Pakal. It is tempting to think the tower was used for astronomical observations. Certainly it would have afforded a spectacular view of the setting sun descending into Pakal's tomb. And probably one of the most famous is the caracol at Chichen Itza, is also believed to have served as an observatory. Certain of its doors and windows line up with various planetary orbits. And by the way, as you look at this, if you ever get a chance, go to Chichen Itza. I saw it, well, actually twice back in the 70s and early 80s. And it is one of the largest, if not the largest, archaeological site in the world, open to the public. It is really cool. But the thing about the caracol is it actually looks like an observatory. And it sort of functions as one. It is round, circular, with a conical top. It is different from the other buildings, which are pyramids and square in shape. This one was added during, I believe, the Toltec time, so it was very different. And archaeologists have a tendency to say it's an eyesore, but it serves a very specific purpose to track Venus and, I believe, and a couple of major stars. Next, we talk about Uxacan. The Mayan built observatories at many of their cities and aligned important structures with the movements of celestial bodies. Some of these are temple groupings, such as a group of 3 at Uashtan, which marks the sun's rising position at summer solstice, the 2 equinoxes, and the winter solstice. Architecture such as caracol at Chichen Itza was also aligned with the appearance of celestial objects such as Pleiades and Venus. By the way, Pleiades sits close to the ecliptic, therefore it would also follow the sun. Another temple at Uxmal contains hundreds of Venus symbols. Astronomical metaphors and celestial events define the ritual landscape for Mayan rulers. Transfers of royal power, for example, seem to have been timed by the summer solstice at certain centers. At Palenque, an inscription notes that Pakal's son, Chanbalhum, dedicated the cross temple grouping on July 23rd, 690. Boy, pretty exact. Time to coincide with the conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and the Moon. That's probably why. To the Maya, this event may have represented the primordial birth of the 3 ancestor gods of the Palenque dynasty, with the first mother, the Moon, and would have been an appropriate movement to consecrate an ascension moment. Mayan murals and carvings show rulers wearing symbols of the heavens, including a belt or sky band made of a chain of symbols relating to the moon and the sun, Venus, day and night, and the sky. Rulers are also depicted carrying bars decorated as sky bands to indicate that they have had the mandate of heaven. Sometimes they are seated, surrounded by a sky band, which gives the ruler a halo of celestial authority. Rulers also like to associate themselves with auspicious sky, such as the sun god, and Mayan rulers and priests in real life often clothed themselves with the heavens by dressing in the pelt of a jaguar whose spots were taken to represent the stars. The Mayan believed that the gods guided the sun and moon across the sky. Even in the darkness of night, Mayan believed that the sun and moon continued to journey through the underworld, threatened all the way by evil gods who wanted to stop their progress. For this reason, the Mayan believed that the heavenly bodies needed human help, which would provide it through sacred rituals such as self-mutilation, torture, and human sacrifice. Sounds like a fun Saturday. To the Mayan, offering this help was simply the price to be paid for the continued survival of the universe. Death from such rituals was a privilege and conferred immortality on those who died or who offered themselves as victims. when it gets interesting. There's a picture of this too. The repeating cycles of creation and destruction as described in Mayan mythology were a reminder of the consequences if humans neglected their obligations to the gods. Humans had an inherent responsibility to the gods who made humanity continued existence possible. According to the Maya sacred calendar, each 52-year period signaled the renewed possibility of the destruction of the world. This was seen as a frightening time when the gods and other forces of creation and chaos would do battle to the world of mortals, determining the fate of all earthly creatures. The planet Venus was particularly significant to the Maya. The important god Quetzalcoatl, for example, is identified with Venus. The Dresden Codex, one of the 4 surviving Mayan chronicles, contains an extensive tabulation of the appearances of Venus and was used to predict the future. The Maya also went to war by the sky, again triggered by the planet Venus. Venus war regalia is seen on stelae and other carvings, and raids and captures were timed by appearances of Venus, particularly as an evening star. Warfare related to the movements of Venus was, in fact, well established throughout Mesoamerica. Mayan calendars, mythology, and astrology were integrated into a single system of belief. The Maya observed the sky and calendars to predict solar and lunar eclipses, the cycles of the planet Venus, and the movements of the constellations. These occurrences were far more than mere mechanical movements of the heavens and were believed to be the activities of gods replaying mythological events from the time of creation. And this is KE5ICX. Don't let me forget that. Calendar priests still exist in Maya regions today and keep the 260-day sacred round count for divination and other shamanistic activity. Many of the components of this belief system originated in the sky but were manipulated on Earth by astronomer priests who applied the sacred structure of the cosmos to affairs on Earth. Now back to the author. Aventi's lifelong work and connection of ceremony, culture, astronomy, astrology, and even the survival of Mayans can be summed up in one of his papers. He suggests we cannot look at the ancient peoples through the lens of modern astronomy, but as a result of their holistic existence through participation in nature, explaining natural phenomenon in a supernatural but predictable ways, and extracting both meaning, purpose, and process for individuals and a society of around 2 million people. Avanti says, and this is his words, "It is no surprise that past cycles of the most pristine and predictable events of the heavens would come to serve as numbers on blank pages on which the Maya could write future history. What the Maya gave back to nature was a similar structuring principle of heaven thought to consist of cosmic cycles which, if watched closely and understood correctly, would ultimately be found to interlock commensurately not only with one another but also with the cycles of human life, all conceived in a kind of unity and harmony that we, in our most reflective moments, must admit we probably never can hope to fully comprehend." Telling stories of creation and witnessing changes in a world of nature, connecting the two is a logical way both to embellish life and to lead meaningful structure to history. With the process of storytelling comes an inevitable expansion into more fundamental and speculative questions, the ones we insist in our Western taxonomy of disciplines upon relegating to the domain of religion. Where did we come from? What will happen to us? In some instances, and this was especially so in certain highly structured, hierarchical societies like the Maya, the relationship between people and the sky became formalized through the ruling class. Cosmic myths expanded to extraordinary proportions, as did the temporal cycles that frame them. Scholars may debate where myth and history intersect in the writing they decipher in the material record the Maya have left behind, but we can be sure that the rhyme and meter of many of these stories we have been discussing find their parallels in the cosmos. And there you have it. I love this book. I'm surprised I didn't read it earlier. It is loaded with math. If you, Billy, are you listening? There's tons of math in here just for you. So, and charts and graphs. The book was written in 1980. It has been updated, although I do not have the updated copy. There's been recent discoveries at Chichen Itza within underground pathways representing the underworld. I'm sure there are some additional things on astronomy, astrology, and the culture of the Maya there. If you've never been to a Mayan site and you find yourself going to Mexico, by all means go and see them. There are heritage sites throughout Mexico that are quite amazing, and for people that had a written word, which was not the norm in many Mesoamerican societies, there's a real huge library of information in the history books about it. All right, that's it from me on my presentation. So, Skywatchers of Ancient Mexico, Anthony Avani. If you're interested, you can find it in your local library or at your bookstore. This is KE5ICX, and this is Skynet. I'm going to go ahead and pause and see if there's any additional check-ins at this point. If you'd like to join us, or if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. But please come with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf.
All right, I've got Joe over on Echolink, KG5ZMG. Welcome, Joe. I have you checked in. And Chaz says, Tom, there's a planetarium show with the same name based on the book. I want to see that. Excellent. And speaking of Chaz, Chaz is next for What's Up. So K5JHA, the net is yours.
Oh, do you know what you've done? Oh, Chaz on the net. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree's in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab and the geology lab at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus, and we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Slide Master, slide number 2. Oh, for those of you who are looking at the video version of this, there's still a stuffed dog behind Tom on the floor. On September the 28th, the moon was at third quarter phase, so the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On October the 6th, the moon will be new. On October the 8th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. On October the 12th, the moon is at first quarter phase. On October the 20th, the moon is full. On October the 24th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. Slide number 3, please. On the night of October the 4th and 5th, the October camelopardids meteor shower will peak with about half a dozen meteors. Meteor showers are usually named for the constellation or the star from where they appear to originate. On October the 7th and 8th, the Draconid Meteor shower peaks with up to 1,000 meteors per hour on some years. But most of the time, this meteor shower only produces a few meteors per hour each year. Slide number 4, please. On October the 9th, the moon is next to the planet Venus in the western evening sky for a great conjunction. Paintings and jewelry and drawings are made that look like this site. I hope it is clear that evening. Slide number 5, please. On the night of October 9th and 10th, the southern Taurid meteor shower peaks with about half a dozen meteors per hour. Slide number 6, please. The Wednesday, October the 13th, the moon and Saturn are in conjunction in the southern evening sky. Later in the evening, they will get closer and closer. Slide number 7, please. The very next night, on Thursday, October the 14th, the Moon and Jupiter are in conjunction in the southern evening sky. And once again, the later in the evening you look, the closer they will be. Slide number 8. And the very next evening, so this is the third night in a row, there's something going to be happening that's great. That's going to be on Friday, October the 15th. Looking to the western evening sky, you will find the planet Venus and the brightest star in Scorpius, Antares, in conjunction. They will only be about 1 degree apart from each other. Now, if you hold your hand out at arm's length, the width of your finger, not the length, but the width of your fingers are about 1 degree. So that's pretty close. Slide number 9, please. Well, this is a little ways off, but I want to let you all know that early on the Friday, November the 19th, there will be a partial lunar eclipse. Actually, this lunar eclipse is almost a total lunar eclipse. 97% of the moon will travel into the Earth's umbral shadow. So for most people, this eclipse will appear as a total lunar eclipse. The moon will enter the lighter part of the Earth shadow, called the penumbra, at 12:02 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is just a couple minutes after midnight. It'll be difficult to notice anything happening by most people. At 1:19 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon begins to enter the darker part of the Earth shadow, called the umbra. At 3:04 Central Standard Time, a little over 97% of the moon will be inside the umbra, and this will be the middle of the eclipse and also the eclipse maximum. At 4:47 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon will leave the umbral shadow of the Earth, and at 6:04 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon leaves the penumbral shadow. But the last part of the eclipse won't be visible from Dallas Metroplex because of the rising sun and the setting moon. Okay, slide number 10, please. Let's continue with our tour of the current evening sky that I started last week. Looking in the northern sky, you will find some familiar friends. The Big Dipper is on the horizon in the northwestern sky. The Big Dipper is part of the constellation of Ursa Major, the Big Bear. The bull represents the back of the bear, and the handle of the dipper represents the tail of the Big Bear. I wonder how that bear has such a long tail. Well, never mind. That's a tale too long to tell. Using the two stars and the bull that are opposite on from the handle, drawing a line upwards, you'll run into the North Star, also known as Polaris. Polaris is the instar on the handle of the Little Dipper, which is part of the constellation of Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. Draco, the dragon, wraps itself around much of Ursa Minor. To the right, or east of Polaris, is Camelopardus, the giraffe. Slide number 11, please. Moving to the northeastern sky, we can find 5 famous constellations that are associated with a myth. Above Camelopardus, you can find Cassiopeia and Cepheus, the queen and king. To the east of Cassiopeia is their daughter Andromeda, and above Andromeda is a flying horse, Pegasus. To the east of Camelopardus is Perseus, the hero of the story. Rising low in the eastern sky is the villain, Cetus, the sea monster. Here's a brief version of the story. Cassiopeia bragged that her daughter Andromeda was more beautiful than the sea nymph. Neptune, god of the ocean, didn't like that, so he sent a sea monster, Cetus, to ravage the coast. Through an oracle, Cassiopeia and Cepheus found that the only way to get rid of the sea monster, Cetus, was to sacrifice her daughter Andromeda by chaining her to a rock on the shore so Cetus could kill her. After Cetus had destroyed a few more coastal villages, they realized they had no choice, so they changed Andromeda to a rock, and Cetus, the sea monster, approached. But wait! Along comes Perseus, flying on a winged horse, Pegasus. Perseus kills Cetus and rescues Andromeda, and they live happily ever after. All of the characters in that story are depicted as constellations in the sky. Slide number 12, please. Getting a good star map will help you find these constellations. I recommend a free website where you can download a free star map of the current evening sky. Skymaps.com. They have star maps that are good for mid-northern hemisphere, for the equatorial areas and for the mid-southern hemisphere. Did I mention that the star maps are free? Yeah. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 13, please, sir. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting, once again, is going to be on Friday, October the 22nd at 7:30 p.m. It's going to be held on Zoom. And again, Brother Guy, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, is going to be the feature speaker. He is an awesome speaker. This is, I believe, the third time that I'm familiar with that he's talked to the Astronomy Club. So there must be a reason why we've invited him back for a third time. To get more information about that and the public observing sessions, if and when they ever return, you can go to their website, texasastro.org. Now, slide number 14. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information I've given you? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know where the answer to your question, or maybe someone else on this net does. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Oh, I just briefly looked over there on Echolink. JJ, yeah, he says that he heard there was a strain on Andromeda's marriage. If you don't get that joke, you'll have to ask him about it. I got the joke, yeah, okay. Slide number 15, please. So as the moon wanes at the end of September, and so do these words for the segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, well, actually, I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, back to our net control, KE5ICX Tom. It's all yours again.
All right, thank you, Chaz. Very good. And Pegasus, was it Mark Hammond? What was his name? Harmon? No, Mark Hammond. I think he rode that horse. At any rate, this is KE5ICX with Skynet. So let us go to, let's see, Brenda, WB50ZL. Miss Brenda has space exploration news and space history this evening. So, Brenda, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. This is WB50ZL. Well, in news, we've been watching the James Webb Telescope progress for quite a while. They still have the launch date set for December 18th, and right now it's on a ship in transit to French Guiana. So we'll be keeping an eye on this more. There's not much to report just now, but we'll get there. There were a lot of missing moon rocks. 379 slivers of moon rock were presented to states, territories, and foreign nations in the early mid-70s as goodwill gestures from the U.S. government and administration of President Richard Nixon. By one accounting, the whereabouts of 171 of those moon rock displays remained unaccounted for roughly 50 years. Due to the honesty and conscientiousness of an unidentified Florida man who found the plaque at a garage sale. Now, both of Louisiana's Goodwill rocks are back at home base. Stephen McLansky, interim director of the Louisiana State Museum, said Tuesday the museum has the rock, which is contained in a lucite ball and attached to a wooden plaque with a miniature replica of the state flag and inscriptions. The plaque commemorates the Apollo 17 mission, NASA's last manned mission to the moon. So if you're at a garage sale and you see a moon rock, snap it up so it can go back to where it belongs. Mars is in a solar conjunction, so NASA will stand down from commanding its Mars missions for the next few weeks while Earth and the red planet are on opposite sides of the sun. This period, called Mars solar conjunction, happens every 2 years. The Sun expels hot ionized gas from its corona, which extends far into space. During solar conjunction, where Earth and Mars can't see each other, this gas can interfere with radio signals if engineers try to communicate with spacecraft at Mars. That could corrupt commands and result in unexpected behavior from our deep space explorers. To be safe, NASA engineers send Mars spacecraft a list of simple commands to carry out for a few weeks. This year, most missions will stop sending commands between October 2nd and October 16th. A few extend that commanding moratorium, as it's called, a day or two in either direction, depending on the angular distance between Mars and the Sun in Earth's sky. Though our Mars missions won't be as active these next few weeks, they'll still let us know their state of health, said Roy Gladden, manager of Mars Relay Network at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Each mission has been given some homework to do until they hear from us again. Here's how some of the Mars missions will be spending that time. Perseverance will take weather measurements with its MEDA, short for Mars Environmental Dynamics Analyzer sensors. Look for dust devils with its cameras, although it won't move its mast or head. Run its RIMFAX, radar imager for Mars's subsurface experiment radar, and capture new sounds from the microphones. The Ingenuity Mars helicopter will remain stationary at its location 575 feet away from Perseverance and communicate its status weekly to the rover. Curiosity rover will take weather measurements using its REMS, Rover Environmental Monitoring Station sensors. Take radiation measurements with its RAD, Radiation Assessment Detector, and DAN, Dynamic Albedo of Neutrons sensors. I look for dust devils with its suite of cameras. The stationary InSight lander will continue using its seismometer to detect tremblers like the large Marsquakes it captured recently. NASA's three orbiters, Odyssey, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and MAVEN, will all continue relaying some data from the agency's surface missions back to Earth, in addition to gathering their own science. Birthdays. September 29th, Bill Nelson. He was born in 1942. He flew on STS-61-C, and he is the current NASA administrator. Albert Scott Crossfield, they just call him Scott Crossfield, October 2nd, 1921. First pilot to fly Mach 2 and an X-15 pilot. Stephanie Wilson, September 27th, 1966. STS-120, STS-121, and STS-130. Robert Henry Lawrence Jr., October 2nd, 1935. He was an astronaut trainee but never went on any missions. He died at age 32 in a plane crash. Clifton Williams, September 22nd, 1932. Astronaut trainee, no missions. He died in a plane crash at age 35. Eric Bowe, October 1st, 1964, STS-126 and STS-133. James D. Helsel, September 29th, 1956, STS-65, 74, 83, 94, and 101. Stephen Frick, September 30th, 1964, STS-110 and 122. Livingston L. Holder, Jr., September 29th, 1956, astronaut trainee, no missions. History. Happy birthday, NASA, I think. July 29th is the real birthday, the day they were formed, but they're claiming October 1st is another, the day they started operations. Why not? You can't have too much cake. Then, in October 1st, 1945, Project Paperclip began. Secretary of War Patterson approved a plan to bring top German scientists to the United States to aid military research and development. A small group of German rocket specialists brought to the United States under Project Paperclip to work on a missile development at Fort Bliss and White Sands Proving Ground. All right, that is all I have. I'll turn it back to the net. This is WB5OZL.
Very good. Thank you, Miss Brenda. And this is KE5ICX, net control for tonight's Skynet. Next up, Chaz, come back, get away from the refrigerator, come back to the radio. You have Miss Carolyn's Constellation to do. K5JHA from KE5ICX. Go ahead.
But Tom, the fridge is a cool place to be. Yeah, go over and check out Echolink. There's a lot of Star Trek jokes for some reason. Someone's wearing a Star Trek shirt, yeah. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key. Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen from Texas in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Capricornus, the sea goat. The sea goat has the body of a goat from the waist up and the tail of a fish. It's a very unusual creature, even for mythological standards, because the two halves don't seem to make a whole lot of sense together. Goats are designed to climb steep and rocky cliffs, while fish are designed to move smoothly through water. Neither half complements the other. In fact, they almost make it a completely impossible creature altogether. Capricornus is the 40th biggest constellation in the sky, about the mid-range of all the constellations, occupying an area of 414 square degrees. Even though Capricornus is the second faintest constellation in the sky after Cancer, it is associated with myths and images that go way back to the 21st century BC. The story of Capricornus originated with the Babylonians and Samaritans. Samaritans knew it as a goat fish, and the Babylonian star catalogs dating back to 1000 BC mention the constellation also meaning goldfish. Maybe it was go fish instead of goat fish. I don't know. Oh, slide number 17. This is the reason why you hang on this late into Skynet. It's the jokes of the week. Why is it so hard to carry on a conversation with a goat? This could also go for Chaz, too. Because they're always kidding around. I thought it was funny. What do you call an unemployed goat? Billy Idol. What do you call a goat with one ear? Van Goat. What do you call a goat on a mountain? A billy goat. And I'm at least 1/4 and maybe up to 1/2 hillbilly, so I can tell this joke on myself. What do you call a goat playing the piano? Billy Joel. Okay. And the last one, for at least this part of Skynet, what do you call a goat that knows martial arts? Karate Kid. Kid? Because the babies of goats are kids. I have a friend, Dennis. Him and his wife raise goats. I always ask him how his kids are doing. Okay, this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 18. Help me get out of this, Tom. Oh, John over here on Echo Link, K5JDW said E-W-E, kidder. You kidder. Okay, slide number 18. Deneb, Alcidae, which is Delta Capricorni, is an Arabic for the tail of the goat. It shines at magnitude 2.82. It's about 50 light years away. It's spectral type A7. A-type stars are generally blue-white in color, and since Delta is an A7 star, it is much more blue in color, much more white in color than blue. It is slightly variable due to the fact that it is an eclipsing binary star with a period of just over a day. In Burnham's Celestial Handbook, Robert Burnham Jr. notes that about 4 degrees northeast of Delta, near Mu Capricorni, is a spot where the planet Neptune was first detected at the Berlin Observatory on September the 25th, we just passed that date, 1846. Among the mythological associations with Capricornus is a Roman legend that Capricornus was one of Neptune's offspring. It is therefore fitting that the planet Neptune was discovered in Capricornus. This fact may have had some influence on why the name Neptune was chosen for the 8th planet, but it's not been confirmed. As you may guess, Alcidae, or is the Arabic for the goat. It is a wide visual double star. This is still Alpha Capricorni. The brighter star is Alpha 2, that shines at a magnitude 3.56. The fainter star is Alpha 1, shining at a magnitude of 4.24. Both stars are G-type stars and yellow stars, and both have small companion stars. Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 themselves, however, are not a true physical pair. Alpha 2 is about 100 light years away, and Alpha 1 is about 500 light years away. Sharp-eyed observers can see both stars with the unaided eye, and they are easily split with binoculars or a finder scope. They both appear sort of yellow-white in color. Slide number 19, please. M30 is a globular star cluster discovered by Charles Messier himself on August 3rd, 1764. Messier's small instruments were not capable of resolving the cluster into stars, so he described it as a nebula. It is generally agreed that the cluster was probably first resolved into stars in 1783 by William Herschel, who had a much larger telescope at his disposal. For many years, M30 was believed to be around 40,000 light years away, but recent observations, including more advanced equipment and techniques, have revived this distance to 26,700 light years away. So it's much closer, about half the distance. Visually, M30 is noted as having a small, bright, dense core and may have difficulty in resolving it. Robert Burnham Jr., Walter Scott Houston, and Stephen J. Amira all make note of this in their writings. Slide number 20, please. NGC 6907 is a barred spiral galaxy. Its brightness is listed as 11.9, which makes it quite faint. And his Constellation of the Month article in the Spectrum, Dave Hutchinson wrote that my attempts at observing this galaxy result in my seeing a rather dense barred part of the galaxy, but I've never really been able to see conclusively its bright arms. Slide number 21, please. And the last object I want to talk about in Capricornus is NGC 7103. It's a magnitude of 14.88, and it is definitely a challenge object. Actually, it's something that if you were a photographer, you might go after it photographically. Dave Hutchinson had to use the Lone Star Observatory 24-inch telescope to see it, but he was able to tell maybe it was an elliptical galaxy, but might not have been able to. He could also see nearby NGC 7104, which is even fainter galaxy. Large aperture and clear skies and dark skies are a must for this object. Most of us will probably never see it visually. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 22, please. There are even more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Capricornus, the Sea Goat. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70, I think it's 73 different observing programs, which have about 100 objects in most of them. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can usually earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. Slide number 23, please. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Capricornus, the Sea Goat. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research words on the deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal every Saturday night for this program. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. And next time I'll take a look at the constellation Microscopium, the microscope. And this is KF5, JHA, sending it back to our net control. Did you move that stuffed dog that was behind you, Tom?
Oh, thank you, Jess. That's Chloe. She sleeps very soundly. Everybody says the same thing. Is that dog alive? Oh, yeah, she's alive. She just doesn't move a lot. Okay, let's see here. Next up is, well, let me just go through here. We're running a little behind. We have space flight or space launches for the week. Let me go ahead and give you what we got and updates. We have to be determined the Raise 2. This will be a launch from Japan in the Uchinara Space Center. A Japanese Epsilon rocket will launch a rapid, innovative payload demonstration satellite, or Raise 2 technology demonstration satellite for the agency. 8 smaller rideshare payloads will also be on this launch. We have on October 5th the Soyuz ISS-65S. This will launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome, Kazakhstan. The Russian government's Soyuz rocket will launch a crewed Soyuz MS-19 spacecraft to the International Space Station with cosmonaut Anton Shleparov, film director Klim Shepenko, and actress Yulia Persvine-Shleparov. You heard me right. Will remain on the ISS for a long-duration expedition, while Shepenko and Persvine will spend about 12 days before returning on a different Soyuz spacecraft. The MS-19 capsule will remain at the station for about 6 months, providing an escape pod for the residents. The rocket will fly on a Soyuz 2.1A configuration. On October 14th, we have from Vostochny Cosmodrome in Russia. This is the other launch site for the Russians. A Russian Soyuz rocket will launch 36 satellites on orbit for Webb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low-latency broadband communications. The Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use, everybody say it together, a frigate upper stage. In October, we have a Falcon 9 Starlink 2-2 mission. This will launch from SLC-4E at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. They'll launch a batch of Starlink Internet satellites from Vandenberg. This mission is expected to deploy 51 Starlink satellites into a high-inclination orbit. All right, let me give you the ones that actually have days announced. October 16th, an Atlas V will launch from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket will launch NASA's Lucy spacecraft built by Lockheed Martin and led by the Southwest Research Institute. Lucy will fly by 7 Trojan asteroids, a unique family of asteroids that orbit the Sun in front of and behind Jupiter. The rocket will fly in a 401 vehicle configuration with a 4-meter fairing, with no solid rocket boosters and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. On the 21st, we have from Naro Space Center in South Korea the Kslv-2 test flight. It will be its first orbital launch attempt. The Korean Space Launch Vehicle 2, or NURI, rocket was developed by Korea Aerospace Research Institute. The first KSLV-2 mission will carry a dummy payload. Let's see here. On October 22nd, there'll be an Ariane 5 launch from ELA-3 and Kourou, French Guiana. Aerospace will launch the Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated VA-255 to launch the SES-17 communications satellite, provide internet connectivity to airline passengers over the Americas, the Caribbean, and Atlantic Ocean for SES of Luxembourg. The Syracuse 4A rocket was also built by Thales Alenia Space and will provide communication services for the French military. I got 2 more. October 24th, 25th, or overnight, from the Takashima Space Center in Japan. The Japanese H-2A rocket will launch a replacement satellite for Japan's quasi-zenith satellite system, which provides regional navigation systems over the Asia-Pacific Ocean. The QZS-1R satellite, built by Mitsubishi Electric Company, will replace the aging QZS-1 satellite launched in 2010. And then finally, let's see here, October 30th, we will have a launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch a Crew Dragon spacecraft on its 5th flight with astronauts. NASA astronauts Raja Sherry and Thomas Mashburn, European Space Agency astronaut Matthias Maurer, and NASA mission specialist Kaida Barron will launch on the Crew Dragon spacecraft to begin a 6-month expedition to the International Space Station. The Crew Dragon will return to a splashdown at sea. And that's just some of them. It's going to be a very busy October. All right, let's quickly move to recent astronomical discoveries. Brenda, WB50ZL, you're up again. Please go ahead.
Okay, this title is Investigating the Potential for Life Around the Galaxy's Smallest Stars. When the world's most powerful telescope launches into space this year, scientists will learn whether Earth-sized planets in our solar neighborhood have a key prerequisite for life and atmosphere. These planets orbit an M dwarf, the smallest and most common type of star in the galaxy. Scientists do not currently know how common it is for Earth-like planets around this type of star to have characteristics that would make them habitable. As a starting place, it's important to know whether small, rocky planets orbiting M dwarfs have atmospheres, said Darla, can't pronounce her name, a doctoral student in UC Riverside's Department of Earth and Planetary Sciences. If so, it opens up our search for life outside the solar system. To help fill this gap in understanding, she and her team studied whether the soon-to-launch James Webb Space Telescope or the currently in orbit Hubble Space Telescope are capable of detecting atmospheres on these planets. They also modeled the types of atmospheres likely to be found if they exist and how they would be distinguished from each other. The study has now been published in the Astronomical Journal. Study co-authors include astrobiologist Edward Schweiderman and Stephen Kane from UCR, as well as scientists from Johns Hopkins University, NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, Cornell University, and University of Chicago. The star at the center of the study is an M dwarf called L98-59, which measures only 8% of our sun's mass. Though small, it is only 35 light years from Earth. Its brightness and relative closeness make it an ideal target for observation. Shortly after they form, M dwarfs go through a phase in which they can shine 2 orders of magnitude brighter than normal. Strong ultraviolet radiation during this phase has the potential to dry out their orbiting planets, evaporating any water from the surface and destroying many gases in the atmosphere. We wanted to know if the ablation was complete in the case of the 2 rocky planets, or if those terrestrial worlds were able to replenish their atmospheres. The researchers modeled 4 different atmospheric scenarios, one in which the L9859 worlds were dominated by water, one in which the atmosphere is mainly composed of hydrogen, a Venus-like carbon dioxide atmosphere, and one in which the hydrogen in the atmosphere escaped into space, leaving behind only oxygen and ozone. They found that the 2 telescopes could offer complementary information using transit observations, which measure a dip in light that occurs as a planet passes in front of its star. The L9859 planets are much closer to their star than Earth is to the Sun. They complete their orbits in less than a week, making transit observations by telescope faster and more cost-effective than observing other systems in which the planets are further from their stars. It would only take a few transits with Hubble to detect or rule out a hydrogen or steam-dominated atmosphere without clouds. As with as few as 20 transits, Webb could allow us to characterize gases in heavy carbon dioxide or oxygen-dominated atmospheres. One of the 4 atmospheric scenarios the researchers considered is a dried-out, oxygen-dominated atmosphere is the most likely. The amount of radiation these planets are getting at that distance from the star is intense. Though they may not have atmospheres that lend themselves to life today, these planets can offer an important glimpse into what might happen to Earth under different conditions and what might be possible on Earth-like worlds elsewhere in the galaxy. All right, that's virtually the whole thing. Back to Nat, it's getting late. It's time to talk about our movie. This is WB5OZL. Back to Nat.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. Well, I've got to make an announcement, and then we'll close out the net. Next week may be an unusual week, and that is that normally I'm doing the streams and all the fun stuff that usually goes on in the background. I will probably be indisposed. This will only be the second time in the history of Skynet over the last 10 years that I haven't been able to do the net directly. It's still possible I could, but I sincerely doubt it. So if you have something that you would like to bring to the net, since they do fill in some of the blanks there, if you have something you would like to bring to the net or maybe an open topic, bring it that evening. I do not think we will have a stream, although I'm still talking about it with an undisclosed person that may do it. We'll see how that all works out. I'll take final check-ins this evening. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign, phonetically your name, where you're transmitting from. This is Final Call.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas and Euless.
Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
What's going on, Tom?
Normal state.
All right, I got KI5JCM, that's Thomas, and I got AG9SG, and there was another station. Did I miss someone? Please come now.
Sorry about that, I was on low power. KF5QEK, Jarrett in Euless.
All right, very good. I've got KF5QEK, that's Jared and Euless. Thank you for checking in. Well, we're going to close it now since we're coming up on the bewitching hour and our next net. We had 22 check-ins this evening. I want to thank everybody who checked in this evening and who participated. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this
I'm
net,
completely
the sky is
operational,
never the limit.
and all my
We're always
circuits are
working on
functioning
control
perfectly.
stations
Afterglow
and your
movie net.
participation, particularly next week, and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, can contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio-video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to the w5fc.org website at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray Tom, and I'll be closing the net at 22:30 on the button local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. We'll be back in about 5 minutes, and start up the Afterglow movie net, which is Unknown World from 1951. And I'll be looking for net control for that, so be back in 5. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear for now.
Okay, it is time for the Afterglow Movie Net, and this is Brenda, WB50ZL. Tonight's fine film is Unknown World, black and white, 1951, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about this movie. It's so bad. I hope somebody comes. Tom, would you give us a quick synopsis? KE5ICX.
Oh, sure, Brenda. I know you were very enthusiastic about this film when you picked it, but then you sort of lost interest. Here we go. Unknown World from 1951 was an independently made American black and white science fiction adventure film directed by Terrell Morris and starring Bruce Kellogg, Marilyn Nash, Jim Bannon, Otto Waldis. Yes, distributed Lippard Pictures. It was produced by Irving Block and Jack Rabin. The film concerns a scientific expedition seeking livable space deep beneath the Earth's surface in the event of a nuclear war. It makes living above ground impossible. Here's the plot. Dr. Jeremiah Morley is concerned about imminent nuclear war. He organizes an expedition of scientists and has them use a large atomic-powered tank-like boring machine called the cyclotram, capable of drilling down deep through the Earth's surface in order to find an underground environment where humanity could escape and survive a future nuclear holocaust. The expedition begins after government funding has fallen through and they are bailed out at the last minute by private funding from newspaper heir Wright Thompson, who insists on going with them as a lark. Does this sound like some other billionaire we're aware of? Romantic rivalry soon develops between Ostergaard and Thompson for Lindsay, and during the dangerous underground expedition, 2 lives are lost in the perils of their adventure. In the end, the scientists accomplish their goal and find an enormous underground expanse with a plentiful air supply, its own large ocean, and phosphorescent light. However, all the lab rabbits brought with them give birth to dead offspring. Through autopsies, it's discovered that this strange underground world has somehow rendered the rabbits, and hence any other life form, sterile. Dr. Morley is deeply depressed by this news. When an underground volcano suddenly erupts, he fails to enter the safety of the cyclotram and quickly perishes. The cyclotram, carrying the remaining survivors, enters the underground ocean to avoid the eruption. They soon find themselves rising toward the surface of the upper world, having been caught up in the strong, upward-moving ocean current. They eventually break the surface near an unknown tropical island. The end. Or as I said, the end? That's it? Back to net control. This is Tom.
Yeah, you did. You said, that's it? I did not pick this movie. Just everybody know that. I never pick these movies, despite the lies that I do. I never do. Because I couldn't. I don't know movies. And how would I pick this one? This has nobody in it that you ever heard of. The only actual name involved in this is the music by Ernest Gold. If you don't recognize his name, he composed the music for the movie Exodus, which is excellent music. The music's not too bad, I'll say that. It's nothing special. But he didn't have a whole lot to work with. All right, we're going to start checking people in, and I do hope somebody comes. Please, out of pity and in sympathy, somebody come to our party. We're going to start with low power and short time, and give us your name, your call sign, your location, and whether or not you will admit to watching this movie. So please go now.
W5BLT, Bill Garland. I watched the movie, but I'm not sure what I watched. W5BLT.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to Whiskey, Gene Whippert. Yeah, I saw it. Just, I'm kind of like, let's keep the last guy to keep everything.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I saw it, although I think there may have been pieces missing. Who knew?
Oh, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray. I did see it, I think. Tom, Louisville.
Are we on regular check-ins already? This is N5, BB, Bill, and Irving. Yes, I saw the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I seen the movie.
Kilo 0, Foxtrot Echo Romeo, Chris in Southeast Dallas. Yes, I saw the movie, and I've seen worse.
Okay, somehow our start time blended into regular, so Bill, you weren't wrong. And that's okay. Around here, we don't follow no stinking rules. Okay, we got W5BLT Bill, who saw the movie. Actually, everybody who checked in saw it, so I won't mention it. KG5BZWJ, NT5TM Tony, KE5I6 Tom, N5BB Bill, KB9SOK Sean, and K0FER Chris. And if you've seen a worse movie, I'd like to know what it is, because I don't believe I have. All right, any more check-ins?
Kilo India 5, Golf Bravo Tango, Chris and Godley. I have not seen it.
I was checking, you're kind of scratchy. Could you please repeat?
Kilo India 5, Golf Bravo Tango.
Okay, I think it was Kilo India 5 Golf Bravo Tango, and the name is Chris. Is that correct?
That is correct, and I have not seen the movie.
Well, you have something to look forward to. Okay, any more check-ins? Okay, our recipe is pretty simple. We start talking, we go down the list, and I'm just going to go in order, and we talk about the plot, if you can find one. Next, we talk about characterization. Then we talk about special effects and anything else you might want to talk about. So, let's jump in. W5BLT Bill, what did you think about the plot?
I don't know. It was kind of simplistic, I suppose, and I had a hard time getting into this one. So it seemed rather simplistic to me, I now got a visual impairment, so maybe I missed something there, but it just didn't seem like this movie grabbed my attention and kept it. I was glad it was only an hour and 14 minutes. W5BLT, back to net control.
Yes, thank goodness for short movies. KG5BZWJ, what did you think about the plot?
KG5BZW, and apologies to everyone. I know it was the short time section, and I kind of started everybody off on almost regular. But I did intend to check in short time because I just didn't know what to make of this film. The film, okay, so there's, okay, I remember. We had, the beginning was kind of interesting. Then I actually had to stop watching after about like the 7-minute mark when it said, some BS about spherical bodies and cooler in the middle. I was like, no, I'll watch something else that's, at least equally as stupid, but at least more entertaining. So I stopped watching and resumed later, actually this afternoon. It was last night, and then this afternoon I said, I don't have anything better to do. Might as well do this. So I watched it, and I was like, okay, thank goodness we're on YouTube, where I can speed it up, and maybe I can watch the remaining hour endless of that, and I ended up putting it all the way to 2 towards the very end. So yeah, I probably did miss a couple of details because the words kind of get jumbled together whenever that happens. But anyway, let me reset. Okay, so wow, there was just not much to it. They added, they did certainly follow the kind of standard Hollywood ingredients list, romance and I guess death or whatever, danger, adventure, or whatever. You just kind of pop it all together. But it just, it really, there's, it was just, I don't know what to call it. I agree, I have seen worse, but this just wasn't much. KG5BZW.
All right, NT5TM. Tony, what did you think?
Good evening, Brenda. Thank you for staying up and being our net control. I, in a way, thought that part of this movie was too realistic. They were endlessly going through the underground world, and all they encountered were boring rocks and pockets of poisonous gas. I mean, that just went on forever. And although, yes, there are fewer caves in the real world, I thought that was just unbelievably appropriate and realistic. Very few interesting fossils, no dinosaurs or cave people or anything for most of the movie. It was just boring rocks, and that was just spot on. Also with, dangerous industrial accidents. So perfect there, total realism. That boredom absolutely captured what it would be like to just endlessly drill through underground rock. Apparently there's even a Calvin and Hobbes comic, Aaron mentions, where Spaceman's fist begins counting all the rocks on Mars and bores himself awake during the dream. So that part was pretty realistic. Then there was this gap. I really wonder if part was missing from the movie that was included on YouTube, because suddenly they're climbing into crevasses and very desperately short of water and all feeling faint. And so I'm guessing that something was missing there. Probably they were going through more boring rocks and not finding any water. Then finally, they discover this cavern of bright light full of water and volcanoes that magically makes all living things sterile and has volcanoes. So the volcanoes were at least kind of interesting, but yeah, the mechanism for universal sterilization was not clearly explained in the plot. Then Mr. DX Machina showed up and tossed them back up onto a tropical paradise. The end. So I thought the boredom was appropriate and realistic. The underground cave was nonsensical, and the ending reflected somebody looking at a film magazine and realizing they only had 50 feet of film left. So I think the plot needed some work. NT5TM.
Okay. KE5ICX. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Brenda, and thank you for doing the net this evening. Let's see, what can I say about the plot? Well, it started out as kind of a good idea. I like the idea that they're going to go on a mission, and they'd be privately funded, and there'll be this multi-millionaire, the Randolph Hearst type character, whose son is going to go and do big things and go on the mission and all of that. Well, interestingly, just this past week, there was a Randolph Hearst thing, a two-parter over on American Experience. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's very interesting. It's almost like this without the caves. But at any rate, it started out okay. I thought, well, I like the idea of them using kind of a newsreel and what is it? The Victor Killian character. What was his name? The doctor. Jerome Morley was sufficiently annoying in the sense that he was very much that's the character part, I can't talk about that, but at any rate, he's kind of the center of everything and pushes everybody into the mission. It seems like it's going to go somewhere, and it never does. As Tony says, they're just going from one place to another and not really doing anything. And we all know it's Carlsbad Caverns. It's very obvious that it is. It's even mentioned in the thing. It's even so good as to say that it's even illuminated. All the caverns are illuminated by spotlights, which is what you would expect. There's also the people going in and saying, turn back now. Where did they go? Nobody ever found them. They found their little thing there that said that what happened to them. That would have been interesting to find out what happened to them. Instead, everybody got bored. Let me reset. Now, one thing about the film that did ring true, I thought, and that is that they're all sitting by before they reach the big cavern with the illuminated phosphorescent stuff, they're on this shore, a small shore, and they're saying, we could live here, and the scientists say that, that the main guy, Morley, says, well, we could live here if we needed to, if there's a nuclear war. And he says, there's no living here. It's terrible. It's dark and dank, but that's exactly what it looked like, a dark and dank film. They were able to reproduce that really, really well. So it was sort of unsatisfactory. Then they find the big open area. They don't explain the phosphorescence and where it came from. They don't explain what kind of plants they're going to grow. They said they could do it in volcanic ash, I suppose. And of course, then the big thing with the rabbits and finding out nobody's going to procreate, that ended everything. And suddenly they go back up. The whole point of having a story is to have a beginning and a middle and an end. They ended where they began. They didn't do anything. The mission went nowhere. He had two people who were dead, and it just you know, there was nothing really to reconcile, which is typical of these films. It drives me nuts when it happens because you can't really, you know, you have no satisfying ending. And I agree with Tony. I was thinking exactly the same thing. They had 50 feet of film left. The end. And I was trying to think who it was. Samuel Z. Arkoff, or maybe it was Rob Zombie. I don't know who it was. Somebody somewhere who made very inexpensive motion pictures told first-year film students, he walked in and says, the first thing you got to do is find out how much film you got. That's first and foremost. How much film do you have? How much can you afford? Everybody else is free. You can get actors for free. You can find sets for free, but film costs you money. You can even rent cameras, but film costs you money. And maybe that was the lesson from this film, that they should have spent more money on film so that he could have a plot that lasted more than an hour and 14 minutes, but actually ended in an appropriate manner, something we did not get. So, I don't know. We'll talk about characters later, but I don't know. It started out okay, and it kind of went down the tubes, the volcanic tubes to you. Back to net control. This is KE5I6.
Okay. This is WB50ZL. Next up, N5BB, Bill.
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. Well, first, I'm going to tell you why this is it's one of the most unscientific films I've ever seen. And the reason is, number one, there aren't caverns underground like that. They supposedly went to a depth of 1,640 miles. That was where that sea was and everything. So let me give you a little idea about this. Oil wells are typically only around a mile, maybe a mile and a half deep. You've seen pictures, I'm sure, in movies and other things, of gushers. Why? There's a lot of formation pressure. So you go down a mile, the pressure is very high. Okay? So you can't have a huge cavern down there. It would collapse immediately from the weight of all the rock above it and all the pressure on the sidewalls and everything. But the thing that's bothering me the most is the air pressure. So I found some references, and they guessed that you would die if you went down 12 miles. My guess is you'd never get that far. But the reason was that the partial gases in the atmosphere would get into your bloodstream incorrectly. The pressure would be way too high. So they could not go but a little bit down, just the first few minutes of going down before they would die. Okay? Number two, as opposed to what Tony seemed to think they were boring through the whole thing. It was boring, I agree, but their machine was not boring continuously. Oh no! If you look carefully, it was just going down what they thought was some kind of tube between these caverns. So they were just going. That was what the guy said at the start of the movie. There were all these caverns under there connected by tubes. No, there aren't. So they only bored when they had to get through a wall of something. But 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, they were just going down the surface of the cavern. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. There's nothing down there but rock. and their machine would be crushed. It's a huge amount. The pressure on their machine would be incredibly high compared to a vast escape that goes down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. You know how strong those babies have to be. Or a submarine, a nuclear submarine. Well, that's just with water. This is with rock, which is much denser above you. You can't go down 50 miles, much less. How far, supposedly? 1,640 miles. So that was a bunch of crock. That was completely crazy. And everything about that underground thing with the fluorescent thing, that wouldn't light it up like that. Nothing like that would be like that. And there wouldn't be any air circulation. So all the fumes coming out of the volcano would build up the toxic stuff in there and would have asphyxiated them. So there was zero science in this. It was just a whole bunch of malarkey. That's what mainly bothered me about the plot. The other thing is, why did he think that going down there was going to save civilization? If people are setting off nuclear bombs on the top of the Earth, couldn't somebody else build a similar machine and send the nuclear bomb down below the ground to those people? They didn't even think about going into space like the other movies in the 50s where they went. What else? If you look inside their vessel, their machine where they were traveling, it had some World War II radios in it and a bunch of other stupid stuff. They seemed to run out of water. I think their water purification system was damaged when they ran into the bad air. And that wasn't explained really. Why didn't they have more bottled water? And they didn't show them eating or the food. Did they take all their food with them? Another thing is the machine they were in, that underground machine. There were some views, not exactly from the rear, but kind of a side view from the rear. It had tail fins and tail lights. It looked like a 50s vintage car with big tail fins and tail lights on the back, which I thought was really funny. The dialogue was silly. I'll just leave it at that. The speed they didn't talk about, feet per second or meters per second. It was RPM. That doesn't tell you how fast you're moving. It tells you how fast something's rotating. I don't know. It was just stupid. This is N5BB. That's all I got for now.
Okay, KB9 SOK, Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, this is KB9 SOK. Yeah, I pretty much agree with what everybody said so far. Once again, we get another movie in the early 50s, sci-fi that focuses on nuclear weapons. This seems to be, I don't know if they were in a competition or what with each other, who could come up with a better one. Obviously, it's very heavy on the minds of everybody back then, I get it. But yeah, so once again, it was just give an excuse to journey to the center of the Earth kind of situation. And yeah, so overall, it was very boring. I agree. It just seemed like, we were seeing the same cavern over and over and them driving around, and it was just kind of ridiculous. Anytime I kept expecting them to run into some, cave dwellers or, something down there. I was waiting, thought any moment something's going to jump out and it's going to be exciting, and it wasn't. Instead, we had scientists and a paper man that were just basically bickering the whole time, which makes no sense either. So, yeah, just kind of crazy. And yes, to kind of answer your question there, Bill, their food was pills. I guess they were saying those pills they were taking was supposed to be 1 pill per meal, and it was supposed to be, I guess, packed with everything they needed, which is, you know, kind of ridiculous. And then the whole water situation, them saying that because the one guy left the valve open, the gas has ruined their water supply. And I thought the very same thing. Surely, if you were going on a journey like this, you would have had backup supply of water. Obviously, you know, they took the time to take medical kits and stuff like that, and seem to have an endless supply of hammers and other kinds of equipment. So it's like, yeah, come on, let's be real. And really, if you were going to do something like this, you would surely have a secondary machine following you with supplies and a support crew, and not just 8 random older scientists to go down there. So yeah, the whole thing was just ridiculous. You know, the one guy slid over the cliff, and it's like, you know, why did the other guy have to go down with him? Just throw the rope down to him and pull him up. You know, I know they need the drama and excuse to kill the guy off, but you know, it was just even that didn't make much sense. And like everybody else, I was like, why would they not be able to reproduce down there? They never explained that at all whatsoever. Because if it was just so poisonous and so gassy down there, it would have killed them as well. So that whole thing was just didn't make no sense either. And then, yeah, the whole love interest thing, that was short-lived, never really went anywhere. I know typically, it seems like in the older movies, it was like a checklist. One of the things you have to do in every single movie is have a love interest. And so they checked it off, you know, just to get it out of the way, I think. So, yeah, once again, it was just, it was rough to watch, I agree. Probably not the worst thing I've ever seen, but pretty close. It was definitely hard to follow it through. And then, yeah, I agree, the science was just so horrible in this thing. And so, yeah, the only thing I got out of this whole thing is I guess they were trying to say at the end of the day that, you know, they're all happy when they made it back to the top, that, you know, it's best to just deal with, you know, what we have on Earth now and fix it. You know, because they said, you know, there's still hope to save humanity or whatever. But, you know, I guess that was the point they were trying to say, because they all kept talking about how horrible it was down there and how miserable and what it was like to be trapped and what have you down underneath the Earth. So I think that was the point, if they're trying to make one. But not much else to add. So back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
All right, K0FER. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But I have seen worse. Plan 9 from Outer Space comes to mind, as does King Dinosaur. Gosh, what to say about this that hasn't already been said? I kind of knew what I was in for when at the very top they were introducing the characters, and the lady doctor biologist was looking through the microscope at something microscopic that I guess would be germane to her field of study. Then the geologist looks at it, so it's germane to both of them somehow. Then the demolitions expert looks at it. I'm like, okay, where's the cross-sectionality between these disciplines? And gosh, the movie just meandered. It said, and then this happened, and then this happened, and nothing really had meaningful consequence on the other sections other than, you know, the people that were dying, and it felt a little bit like, and then there were none. Getting towards the end, I think the other, I forget who said it, but the Deus Ex Machina at the end was absolutely absurd. And yes, there's no scientific basis for any of this whatsoever. They would have had to bend if they were to surface that quickly at the end. Yeah, it was a mediocre movie, but again, I've seen worse. K0FER.
Okay, KI5 GBT. Chris, you didn't see it, but you may have an opinion. Please offer it.
Recheck.
Who's recheck?
Thank you. This is WW2 CBI checking in. Thank you.
Mr. call. WW2 what?
WW2CVI.
And your name?
Name is Ron.
All right, did you see this movie, and do you want to talk about it?
Well, yes, I did see the movie. Kind of unusual. It was, I guess, the best sci-fi I ever saw because I was 7, and it was the first sci-fi I ever saw. But by the end of the movie, I thought it was stupid. And I thought the machine was kind of cool looking. Well, for a 7-year-old in the 50s, no wonder. Let me read that. And previous comment, I think, was spot on about the styling of the boring vehicle. It would look just like a 59 Buick, later on after the movie. But I'd say there's one saving grace that it was really important that this movie be made and be so awful because Irving Bloch was, I guess, one of the screenwriters, and he was also the screenwriter on Forbidden Planet, which is somewhat of an epic sci-fi movie. So I'm thankful for this terrible movie, and I hope I never see it again. But with that, back to the net, WW2CBI.
Okay, thank you. I called on KI5GBT, but he didn't come back. Did you have anything to say, Chris? Okay, well, it's my turn. Golly, where do we start? I was very disturbed by the lack of beds. Did they have bunks anywhere? We never saw them. I assume they had a bathroom, but Enterprise didn't have bathrooms, so who knows. And a little pill for food. That was ridiculous. So many things where they were trying to be cool, and they really were just more like stupid. Now, I have a theory as to why they decided that this atmosphere renders people and animals sterile. It was the woman scientist who handled all this information. And I think she looked around and said, we're going to repopulate the world, and I'm the only woman here? So she made up a story about it making people sterile. And if that was their intent, why only bring one woman? That was pretty dumb. The machine, the drill bit on the front wasn't as wide as the machine, so there's no way that it could have cleared a path through the rock. And even if it did, drill bits that drill through rock are really sturdy and they wear out, and that was just, I think, a little bit far-fetched. A gratuitous killing off of the crew members, I mean, I didn't really care. So what? I didn't even know his name. I don't care if he died. But they just did that for a dramatic effect. And a lot of this stuff was just drama and pointless drama. When the girl passed out, what was that about? Let's see, what else? I had some other ideas. Oh, phosphorus glowing, would that equate to sunlight? Would plants really thrive down there? Was that ocean, saltwater ocean, or freshwater? I didn't see any source of fresh water, unless that was just a big lake, and personally I wouldn't drink it. really expected to see dinosaurs jumping out at them, or cavemen, or something. And that wouldn't have cost much money. Old plastic dinosaurs up close, or cavemen, you know, extras. They're cheap. But we all learned our lesson not to blow ourselves up, right? This is so important that we really careful not to do that. It's been 70 years since this movie made, and we really haven't come close to a nuclear war. We've definitely had some problems, but what can I say? In the 50s, I lay in bed at night scared to death that the bomb was going to drop. We all thought it was just going to come out of nowhere, and nuclear war would just sort of spontaneously happen, and that is played out in so many movies, and really our fears were ungrounded. But there it is. Made all those wonderful movies about it. I don't know why they didn't make a sequel. That would have been good. All right, I'm rambling, and it's time to move on. How about more check-ins? Well, alrighty then. Let's move on to characterization. W5BLT Bill, what do you think?
My favorite character was the volcano, and I wish it had showed up earlier and made its appearance. I think, yeah, I was surprised they only took one woman with them. I got the feeling they were exploring, and then maybe they would go back and get more people for the second movie, the sequel. I didn't understand the bickering going back and forth between the two men. It just seemed very weird. I had no vested interest in any of these characters. I think you echoed it before that, you know, as they were being killed off, even the head scientist guy didn't get in when the volcano erupted. No big loss. So anyway, that's all I have. W5BLT.
Okay, KG5BZWJ.
All right, KG5BZW. Characters. Yeah, well, I don't know. Given the way the movie was written, it's kind of hard to comment on the characters except for just the way they were introduced and all that, I guess. Like, when there's no consequence, what does it really matter for the characters? I don't know. I mean, besides the deaths and all that, but they were just, it seems like they were just kind of killing off annoying characters anyway. Not that, I don't know. It wasn't, well, my memory's a little bit faded. It's like, yeah, I did bore through this film. Yeah, I actually, I'll give him this. I did kind of like the beginning introduction, even though, yeah, when they had this I feel like every single thing I'm going to say, something that's like, okay, that doesn't make sense. Typically doesn't make sense. No matter way, I don't know. Yeah, the first character, which dies at the end, it was kind of interesting. I don't remember much about these people. There was something I thought was kind of interesting about the woman, but not really. you had the guy that provided funding for the expedition who died midway, and I don't know. I totally missed the point of the guy that was, talking about leaders and sheep and blah blah blah, and of course he died. Like I said, I kind of sped through it, and some things is like I really. The problem was I didn't want to care about some things. It's like I just couldn't. I couldn't. The way that the film was already going, I didn't care, and I didn't any motivation to withdraw my or my previous objection was already kind of I'm trying to forget what I'm trying to say, but I didn't care, and I already have deemed that I will probably not care is what I guess what I'm trying to say, and that's basically what I felt about almost everybody towards the end. So yeah, not too good. KG5BZW.
KNT5TM, Tony, go ahead.
Well, I have to agree with Jay's last words there. Well, Jay's last words from that transmission. Hopefully not his last words ever. I didn't care, and I couldn't tell them apart once they all got into the underground machine that was both a boring machine and a machine for inducing boredom. There was the woman and there was everybody else, and I couldn't really keep them straight, and I didn't try, which is always kind of a horrible thing about a movie, because ultimately we're people. We like stories about people. We like learning about people, making friends with people. If you can't make us interested in the people, your movie has failed, and I don't think that's too much of a surprise to anyone who watched this. Anyway, nothing to say about the characters. NT5TM.
Okay, KU5ICX.
Okay, yes, the characters were forgettable, except for Morley, who was annoying. But the thing is, they were all doctors, with the exception of Bannon. Andy Ostergaard. Everybody else was a doctor. We had Dr. Bauer, Dr. Paxton, Dr. Coleman, Dr. Joan Lindsay. Fine. They didn't act doctors. They were all fighting. Although, I don't know. Doctors might fight, and we just don't know about it. Or they put us under, and we don't know that they're fighting. That could be, too. I don't know. They were rather boring, disengaging, and you couldn't tell one doctor from another doctor. I was waiting for white lab coats. There were none. Everybody dressed like they were going on a weekend holiday, or going to the movies, you know. They were missing ties, but that was it. If you put ties on them, they could go to church on Sunday, down in the caverns somewhere. I don't know. Just seemed kind of silly, I think, in the end. So, character-wise, no characters to speak of. Victor Killian, who played Jeremiah Morley, he was not credited in the film because he was blacklisted in Hollywood. It's that time of the century where that occurred, so he didn't go anywhere. And the poor guy, believe it or not, he lived to 88, but he was he lived in an apartment alone, and he was robbed and bludgeoned to death. And a co-actor who lived not far from him also was bludgeoned to death. They both appeared on All in the Family together. He went into the 70s, actually, in acting. So, very strange, very sad, I guess. But, I don't know, he looks memorable, but I can't remember where I've seen him. I have to go through and look and see, but I'll be honest, yeah, he's got like 10 million movies he's been a part of. Nothing I reckon. Oh, he was in the Brady's bunch as Mr. Stoner. What a name, Mr. Stoner. He probably looked like he was doing exactly that. Why am I doing this? Because I don't have anything really to say about the acting in this movie. But, oh well. All right, back to you. KE5ICS.
Okay, N5BB, Bill.
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. I agree with what's been said. And because, for me, I could not believe the plot, the lack of any kind of scientific credibility and why they were doing this, and because I didn't care very much about the characters. You don't know anything about them. They seem to be on a scientific mission, but they weren't doing a lot of science. The woman scientists seemed to be doing a little bit of science. The rest of them, were they out doing a whole lot of science? I don't know, not a lot. It just didn't seem to me that... I think that part of it just wasn't directed very well, and it wasn't written very well. And so the actors, there were a couple people that were known, the rest of them weren't. The woman only appeared in 2 movies. This was the last one. And she was then a casting agent, looking for extras and other things for movies in her area there in California. But, and she married various people that were involved in movies. But, and appeared on a few TV things. But they weren't, most of them weren't really big famous actors and everything. So I think they were just, it's a B movie, and they just did it. What can we say? They plugged it out. They got it through under budget. And like these B movies, the characterization is rotten. You don't care about the people. They threw in the little arguments and the love interest just in order to have some kind of plot that involved the people involved other than the situation. And they didn't do a very good job adding those, the personality of the people to it. That's all I got in N5BB.
Okay, KB9SOK, Sean.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, as everybody said, no real characterization. They spent first 10 minutes of the movie telling you how these were the 12 or whatever brightest people ever, and they're, but they surely didn't act like it. It's just really horribly written. And the other thing, these characters seem to give up at every corner. They even started off with trying to raise the funds, and they gave up after 1 year, and every scientist gave up trying to get funds after just 1 year. They wouldn't be a scientist anymore. Fundraising is a huge part of a lot of science research, and they gave up on that. And then once they got a little ways down, let's turn around and go back. These characters just seem to constantly fight and give up, and that's pretty much all they did. So yeah, very, very, very boring. Very, no real characterization. This may be the first movie. By the time I got to the movie, I couldn't remember a single name. And I'm not the best at remembering names, but usually I at least remember the main characters. But I couldn't even told you. And as others have said, I couldn't tell one scientist from the other. It was just very strange. But not a lot to add, so I'm going to send it back to net. This is KB9SOK.
Okay, K0FER, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm kind of with them. They are really bad scientists. They give up too easily. The assumption that just because the rabbits couldn't reproduce down there, that humans couldn't. Also, the assumption that it was because of the area that they were in and might not have anything to do with the poisonous gas or any other of the perils that they somehow survived, is just really bad science. And I think the world was right to not fund their efforts and their research. I think everyone that died deserved their Darwin Award. Didn't care about any of them. And that little speech about one man, it's one man against the world, one man against nature, was shoehorned in, and I have no idea what the writers were trying to force with that perspective. Oh, gosh. I feel bad for the actors. They were given nothing to work with, and, I mean, they did the best they could, I guess. I've seen worse acting. I've seen very few worse scripts, though. Characterization that is just... no one did anything and gave up, and there were just kind of weak personalities all around. The shoehorning of the romance plot in there was, well, of course forced, but no chemistry whatsoever. So I'm not sure why that didn't make the cutting room floor. Anyway, K0FER, Chris, back to net.
Okay, KI5 GVD. Chris, are you back with us? Guess he's gone. WW2CBI, Ron. Characters.
WW2CBI here. About characters, I agree with some of the prior hams. I couldn't remember any of the names, nor really tell people apart as it proceeded, and even forgot the name of the movie, although I've always wondered what the name of that crazy movie was with the boring machine. And so tonight I found out the name of the movie, and it's been, over half a century? So certainly a forgettable film. But, yeah, about the script, well, let me reset. I think the story writers or screenwriters, they also did a reset. And I think what might have happened, just sort of speculation, is that they probably got a lot of criticism. But Irving Bloch still wanted to be in the industry, and I found a photograph of a tour of the Stanford Linear Accelerator when it was doing medical work. This is long before the linear accelerator that's there now. And there is Irving Bloch mentioned in the caption, and there's a picture of him with a whole entourage. So they're getting some sort of tour. So he got a little bit of homework to connect technology with causal issues and results, and did some thinking. And certainly with Adler, they came up with a good script later on. The most memorable character for me was the boring machine. Even though the blade was too small, and as was pointed out, it didn't operate correctly. Anyway, it was kind of humorous. It's amazing that even a 7-year-old could figure out that this was a dumb movie. With that, back to the net, WW2CBI.
Thank you. Do you have any more check-ins?
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec Echo Kilo, just listening in.
I'm sorry, give me your call sign again, please.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec Echo Kilo.
And your name?
My name's Jared. I'm here in Euless.
Okay, Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec, Echo, Quebec. Jared, welcome to the net. And feel free to, if you want to say anything, feel free to jump in. All right, this is WV50ZL. It's my turn to talk about these sorry characters. They were so boring. One thing that offended me was fist fights breaking out. What's up with that? In my entire adult life, in the workplace, well, anywhere, I've never seen anybody get in a fist fight. Well, you know, you see it on TV or in bars, but not in the workplace. Nobody ever comes to fist fights like that. It's just so unrealistic. Can you imagine the Apollo astronauts getting into a scuffle like that? It's so unprofessional. And, you know, these people shouldn't have been selected for this if they were that unstable. That's very dangerous. The romance was so forced. I think they felt like they had to do something. I think they were desperate. They didn't have a good script, and we don't know what we're doing. Our characters are one-dimensional, but we're gonna kill some people off, and we're gonna have a forced romance and try and do something to get some interest in this thing. And there just isn't. The whole thing was just flat. There wasn't anything that interested me at all. And a lot of the things that happened in the movie were so stupid. I know this isn't about characters, but the characters were often really, they just weren't very likable. And they're taking a vote. What kind of an expedition takes votes? You've got a leader, and he makes decisions. There may be a point where he may take a vote of the crew. That does happen. But generally, the commander or the leader is the one making the decisions, and this thing lacked leadership. That's one reason why they were fist-fighting, I guess, or, couldn't make decisions, or were making bad decisions. And you've got Cave who splits off into two branches. Oh, let's each go alone down these. This is like the teenagers hear something outside the cabin and go outside to investigate. You just don't go off on your own. You don't. You pair up. And unfortunately, they didn't have any little walkie-talkies, which I don't know what the range would be on those underground. But they were taking very horrible risks. So, yeah, they were stupid. All right. Let's start back at the top. You can talk about special effects or anything else you want. W5BLT Bill, go ahead.
Nothing really for the net, although I did find it amusing that they were hitting the wall with hammers to get water. Seemed like a very weak wall. Anyway, nothing more to add. WB5, let me get my new call right. W5BLT, Whiskey 5, Bravo Limo Tango.
Okie doke, KG5BZWJ. Talk about whatever.
Nothing to add. KG5BZW.
Okay, NT5TM, Tony.
Well, Brenda, I will say you're right. Real explorers would have used the buddy system. Splitting up. Stupid is cliche. Anyway, that's all I got. NT5TM.
All right, KE5ICX.
Yeah,
boring machine. It was boring. But how the heck that thing could actually, you know, it was mentioned about it splaying out so that it could move through the thing. But, you know, most Buicks can't get through small, you know, tubes or tunnels anyway. So, I don't know. It wasn't all that bad. I thought the special effects were few and far between, but the ones that they had were good. You knew it was a model and all that, but I thought it looked kind of interesting. The inside of the boring machine was okay. I would see it as being minimalistic. We've seen that sort of thing before. But didn't make any sense, of course, as if they're going to spend any time in that thing. First, where do they get all the energy for that thing? What does it run on? D-cell batteries or something? You know, never run out, never lose? I don't know. That just surprised me. So I thought the special effects, considering how few there were, it wasn't all that bad. Wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. And the three guys that worked on the film that did that, I thought did an okay job. So that's it from me. Back to you, Brenda, KE5I6.
Okay, N5BB, Bill.
Yeah, this is N5BB. Yeah, they had, I think, some of those painted on glass kind of things they had for some of the effects. Considering when the movie was made, the special effects were okay, considering when it was made. But they didn't spend a lot of money, but they were okay considering when it was made. Was there music? If so, I didn't think about it. And I can't find anything else exceptional to talk about. N5BB.
I thought the music was one of the better things about it. Ernest Gold did that, and as I mentioned earlier, he composed the music for the movie Exodus, so they actually had a real name. Maybe he wasn't anybody at the time of this, but I thought that was one of the better things about this movie. All right, next, KB9SOK, Sean.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, as everybody said, the effects were pretty basic. The inside of the machine was very basic. Once again, we have another ship that's apparently bigger on the inside than the out, because I assume, yeah, there had to surely be a place to go to the bathroom. And where did all these infinite supplies come from that they had? So, yeah, obviously it was a model. I thought it was a bit strange that they didn't actually show the tracks that they spoke of. They just covered them up. So I guess that if they had showed them, then they would have had to actually show some special effects, show them moving. Probably my favorite special effect is the same effect they use in every single sci-fi movie, and even still use it today, and that they love to show an oscilloscope. And, you know, when the ship was, or the boring device was drilling, and it was vibrating, they adjusted two sine waves to match up, and it magically stopped vibrating. As a person who's used an oscilloscope in his career, it's just kind of hilarious that this is still being used occasionally today in movies. That's really all I got. Back to net control, KB9, it's okay.
Yeah, most of all of these low-budget movies used meaningless technology to impress us because they think we don't know what this is about. All right, next, WW2CBI Rock.
Brenda, what's the question on this one, WW2CBI?
Special effects or anything else you'd like to talk about?
Well, you know, it reminded me of the magazines of the day, like Popular Mechanics and, I don't know, Popular Science or whatever they were, where in the back there would be all these ads of get a big career, learn how to be a movie writer, or repair TVs, or fix cars, or, you know, whatever. And, you know, so buy the book or some sort of mail order thing. And it just felt like these guys, I guess initially, were using the checklist. And interestingly, I saw such a checklist for Westerns back in the 50s, for writing paperbacks, stories, stuff like that. So I think they really learned their lesson, and I guess it was amusing for a while, over 50 years ago, and I'm enjoying the banter here. And with that, back to the net, WW2 CBI.
Alrighty, and let's see. Jared said he was just listening, so. Any more check-ins?
K0FER with comments.
K0FER. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. So I think this whole movie is begging for a Mystery Science Theater 3000 treatment. As many people have pointed out, there was just a lot of absurdity in there. Like smashing the wall with hammers, like John Henry, when didn't they have a big giant drill car right across the way? My favorite absurd special effect was the avalanche that looked like falling marshmallows, and I just thought I couldn't imagine peril with death by s'more. The boring machine was kind of interesting to me, aside from being boring, as the pun intends. But it had more legroom than an American Airlines flight, so maybe they could lay down their seats and recline and sleep that way. You were mentioning lack of bunk beds. Very much bigger on the inside. Also, the absurdity of the guy just taking off his gas mask and saying the air is fresh and clean when they had like a bad air detector on board. I'm just sitting there thinking, like, goodness gracious, everybody deserves to die. But the music for this, composed by Ernest Gold, as you had mentioned. He also was the guy that composed the music for that other apocalyptic nuclear war film that we watched a couple weeks ago, the one in Australia. I'm forgetting the name. But he did one for that. He wasn't quite really well known in 1951, but he was a workhorse, doing like 4 or 5 films a year. So the music in this isn't really memorable, but he was just churning it out because they wanted music, not because it was supposed to be a work of art. But still, that's just most of being a musician. Honestly, I really would like to see Mystery Science Theater 3000 do a treatment for this. I think there is a lot of stuff that Crow and Tom Servo and everybody could totally riff on. Anyway, K0FER, back to net.
I agree, and for all we know, they may have done it, so we might want to go look at that and see. Special effects, yeah, well, everything's pathetic about this movie. That's all I can say. I can't find anything good about it. But in 1951, if I were a kid, this would probably have been okay. And we hold old movies to today's standards. You know, Stanley Kubrick couldn't have made this movie without a big budget. Nobody could. But what they did is that, you know, they had a formula. You made this low-budget movie, then you threw it out in the theaters, and it actually made money, so it was a success. Didn't have to be good. People would go see it anyway just because it was there. And, you know, if they're there to make money, that's it. There's no art here, and they don't have the money for art or for excellence. They just need to turn a profit, and that just was sort of the rule of thumb in the 50s. Nobody cared. All right, we're at the end of the road. This is WB50ZL. I'm going to call on Tom, KE5ICX, to tell us about next week.
Brenda. Well, I'm going to give you two movies, the one for next week, so you don't get too depressed to realize that a good one will be right after that. So next week's movie is the 1992 comedy Encino Man. No, I've never seen it either, and you probably haven't either, but who knows. But after that, the following week, 10/15/21 will be E.T. Yes, it's available for free with advertising, so E.T. But next week's movie is Encino Man from 1992 with Brandon Fraser, I think, is in it. So be there or be square. Next week's movie. Don't forget, you can get the information. If you want to know what all the movies are and all that, you can send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX @yahoo.com. Tell me you want to join the movie gang, and I will, or Afterglow Movie, and I will put you on the list. Or you can go to Facebook and go to Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and sign up there, and you can get the information on the movies as well as the quick synopses. Back to you, Brenda, KE5ICX.
All right, well, we're going to turn this thing off. So thank you all for participating. A lot of great comments. And we will see you all next week. This is WB5OZL Clear.
KE5ICX and 5IMS.
JJ, you've been lurking out there.